Karen claimed my yard was too militarized, so I turned it into a veterans memorial zone. Have you ever had a neighbor who turned a simple disagreement into a full-blown crusade? That's exactly what happened when Karen, my next-door nemesis, stormed over one sunny afternoon, her face redder than the roses I'd just planted. "Your yard looks like a war zone," she shrieked, pointing at the vintage military Jeep I'd restored and the flagpole flying Old Glory. "It's too militarized, and it's scaring my kids." I stood there, jaw clenched, as she demanded I tone it down, or she'd report me to the HOA. Me, a retired Army veteran who'd served 2 tours in Iraq. Being told my pride in my service was an eyesore? That was the spark that lit a fire in me. One that would turn my yard and our quiet suburban street into something no one could ignore. I didn't argue with Karen that day. I just nodded, let her tirade fizzle out, and watched her march back to her pristine, cookie-cutter lawn. But inside I was boiling. My Jeep wasn't just a hobby. It was a tribute to the brothers and sisters I'd served with, some who never made it home. The flag? It wasn't just fabric, it was a symbol of every sacrifice I'd witnessed. Karen didn't get it, and I wasn't about to let her ignorance dictate my life. So I did what any stubborn vet would do. I doubled down. If she thought my yard was too militarized, I'd show her what that really meant, not with tanks or guns, but with something far more powerful, a memorial to honor veterans. The plan came together fast. I called up my old squad mate, Javier, who ran a landscaping business, and told him I wanted to transform my front yard into a veterans memorial garden. "You sure, man?" he asked, chuckling. "This is gonna ruffle some feathers." I grinned. "Good." We sketched out a design. A stone pathway shaped like a dog tag, leading to a central plaque engraved with the names of local fallen heroes. Around it, we'd plant red, white, and blue flowers, poppies for remembrance, cornflowers for hope, and daisies for peace. I keep the Jeep, but repaint it with a mural of soldiers raising the flag at Iwo Jima. The flagpole would stay, but I'd add a smaller one for a Pauamae flag. And, just to twist the knife, I'd install a subtle spotlight to shine on the plaque at night, so Karen could see it from her bedroom window. As the work began, the neighborhood buzzed. Javier's crew dug up my lawn, and curious neighbors stopped by, asking what I was up to. Most were supportive, especially Mr. Thompson, a Vietnam vet who lived down the street. "About time someone stood up to that woman," he muttered, handing me a cold beer. But not everyone was on board. Karen, predictably, was livid. She cornered me one evening as I was laying bricks for the pathway. "This is an outrage," she hissed, waving a printout of HOA bylaws. "You can't just turn your yard into a shrine. It lowers property values." I looked her dead in the eye. "It's my property, Karen, and it's honoring people who gave everything. You got a problem with that?" She stormed off, muttering about taking this to the board. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. One morning, as Javier and I were setting the plaque, a beat-up pickup truck pulled up. Out stepped a wiry woman in her 60s, wearing a faded army cap. "Name's Diane," she said, her voice rough but warm. "Heard about your project from my nephew at the VFW. I want to help." Turns out, Diane was a Gulf War vet who'd lost her brother in Vietnam. She'd been quietly volunteering at the local Veterans Center for years, helping families navigate benefits and grief. She brought more than just muscle, she brought stories. As we worked, she told me about her brother's sacrifice, about the vets she'd counseled, and about how memorials like this gave people a place to heal. Her presence shifted something in me. This wasn't just about sticking it to Karen anymore. It was about creating something bigger, something that mattered. The confrontation with Karen came to a head at the HOA meeting. She'd rallied a small posse of like-minded neighbors, armed with complaints about aesthetic violations and community standards. The boardroom was packed, the air thick with tension. Karen stood up, clutching her notes like a shield. "This so-called memorial is a blatant attempt to glorify war," she declared. "It's divisive and inappropriate for a family-friendly neighborhood." A murmur rippled through the crowd. I felt my fists clench, but before I could speak, Diane stood up. She didn't raise her voice, but her words cut like a blade. My brother died so people like you could live free, she said. This memorial isn't about where it's about the people who paid for your right to stand here and complain. If that scares you, maybe you need to look in the mirror. The room went silent. Even Karen's allies shifted uncomfortably. Then Mr. Thompson spoke, his voice trembling with emotion. I spent years hiding my service because people spit on me when I came home from Vietnam. This memorial? It's the first time I've felt seen in decades. One by one, other neighbors chimed in, vets, spouses, even a teenage girl whose dad was deployed. Karen's face turned ghostly white as her support crumbled. The HOA president, a retired cop, cleared his throat. The board finds no violation. The memorial stays. The room erupted in applause, and Karen sank into her chair, defeated. The fallout was swift. Karen's campaign fizzled, and her influence in the neighborhood took a nosedive. She stopped making eye contact, and her perfectly manicured lawn started sprouting weeds. I almost felt sorry for her almost. The memorial's dedication ceremony was the final nail in her coffin. On Veterans Day, we unveiled the plaque under a crisp blue sky. Over 100 people showed up, vets, families, even the local mayor. Diane read the names of the fallen, her voice steady but thick with emotion. Javier's crew had outdone themselves. The garden was stunning, a quiet oasis of pride and peace. The Jeep, now a rolling tribute, gleamed in the sun. As taps played, I saw Mr. Thompson wipe away a tear, and I knew we'd done something right. But the real victory wasn't Karen's defeat, it was what the memorial became. People started visiting, leaving flowers, dog tags, and handwritten notes. A young widow told me it was the first place she'd felt close to her husband since he died in Afghanistan. Kids from the neighborhood asked questions, learning about sacrifice and service. Diane became a regular, guiding visitors and sharing her stories. My yard wasn't just a yard anymore. It was a beacon, a reminder of what we owe those who serve. Karen moved away 6 months later. Her house sold to a young Marine and his family. I like to think she learned something, but I doubt it. As for me, I'm still out there, tending the garden, keeping the flags flying. This fight wasn't just about a neighbor's complaint, it was about standing up for what matters, even when the odds feel stacked against you. It's a lesson I learned in the Army, and one I'll carry forever. So what do you think? Was I right to turn my yard into a memorial, or did I go too far? Should Karen have backed off, or was she justified in her complaint? Share your thoughts, I am all ears.